What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our NFL power rankings for week 7. We have a lot of big games last week in week 6, meaning a lot of teams are moving around here. But before I get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Get us to 200 subscribers where we'll be doing that autograph item giveaway. And to be entered into that, all you have to do is hit subscribe. But let's get into it here with the Panthers coming in last place. Big story for them. They're going to be sellers here in the next few weeks. They already traded Robbie Anderson for 2 picks. Dismal performance against the Rams, and now they get the Bucks at home, which they should lose again. And this is clearly, the worst team in the NFL right now. Just nothing is going their way. 31, we got the Lions dropping a spot here. And I think the big story coming back from their bye week is how are they going to perform? Maybe Jameson Williams is back. Will the top 3 offense show up? And will Jared Goff, have a decent game come out of the bye? That's the big question for these Lions as they're looking to right the ship. 30, we got the Chicago Bears with a tough loss on Thursday Night Football against the Commanders. This team just can't score. Plain and simple, they can't score. And, you can't win if you can't score. If you can limit a team to 12 points and lose, then you got a lot of problems. They need to let Fields air it out more. I know he threw for 27 times, but, they need to get him throwing 40 times, really giving him a shot. 29, we got the Commanders who just beat those Bears. Ron Rivera is still on the hot seat, in my opinion. If he loses 2 more with, Heineke these upcoming weeks, and, the change will be coming. That Carson Wentz is out 4 to 6 weeks. So we have to wait and see if he's reevaluated, if he's going to be the starter when he comes back, or if Heineke can pull off some good wins and put them right back in the mix. 28, we got the Jaguars dropping some spots. Close loss to, that shouldn't be the Titans, it should be the Colts. It was a close loss to the Colts. And in a span of 3 weeks, this team went from 2-1 to 2-4, and they've fallen right back to the bottom. Etienne and Robinson, though, were the positive bright spot, 163 total yards, and Trevor Lawrence had a 3-touchdown total game. So, the offense is playing well, just the defense just did not show up when they needed them. 27, we have the Texans dropping after last week's bye, mostly just because these teams down here just won, and I had to move them up. But if Davis Mills can play better, get the ball to Brandon Cooks more, and Dameon Pierce keeps, doing what he's doing, this team could be pulling off a few upsets in the upcoming weeks. 26, we're moving the Steelers up. Only 3 spots here. I don't want to overreact over that win against Tampa, but the defense showed up even with key guys missing. Claypool had his best game of the year. Obviously, Pickett did pretty well until he got hurt, and then Trubisky sealed the game, essentially. So we're going to be curious to see how the QB situation is going forward. I would assume it's still Pickett, but Trubisky, had a good showing when he came in. 25, we have the Atlanta Falcons after their upset win at home versus the 49ers. The defense stood out, and if Brandon Ayuk wasn't on the 49ers, this 49er team would have just done nothing all day. Kyle Pitts, he had a great showing, his first touchdown this year, so if he can catch a touchdown, it's just a great day for him. Mariota, he played well, only 1 incompletion and 3 total touchdowns with 50 rushing yards. 24, we have the Cardinals dropping 2 spots with a very bad loss in Seattle. Couldn't do anything. Kyler Murray looked like he was missing D-Hop. Well, now he's back. He's 8-2 with him in his career. And they got Robbie Anderson, but Marquise Brown's out probably around 6 weeks. So they added 2 receivers and lost 1. And I think the Cardinals, need this win here. And if they don't get this win, it might be panic time in Arizona. 23, we have the Raiders staying put here. Need a big win this week upcoming against the Texans to, stay in the playoff race. They do have an easier stretch coming up, as you can see there. Houston, New Orleans, Jacksonville, Indy, and Denver. So if they can at least win 4 of those 5, they might be in the mix. They'd finish 5-5 going into the home stretch. 22, we have the Browns, and this team, well, just didn't show up at all. Is it time to panic a little bit? It might be if they lose to the Ravens, especially because, everyone was hoping Deshaun Watson comes back around 500. He can propel them maybe to a playoff berth, but you got to win these games. You got to get Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb involved, only 82 yards because they were down so much that they just didn't have a choice to throw. But Brissett, he had 2 interceptions. Special teams had a fumble. I mean, it was just an overall disaster at home versus Patriots. 21, we have the Broncos, who just lost last night in overtime to the Chargers. They can't score. Defense is great. Russell Wilson had a mediocre game. He was 15 for 28 and started 10 for 10 in the game. So what's that tell you? He went 5 for 18 after that. Special teams, the fumble in overtime really cost them a chance to even go down and win. But Melvin Gordon, I think, is a big storyline. He's running back 3 now. He didn't see any carries. It felt like the whole game. And, could he be a possible trade candidate? 20, we have the Seahawks moving up a lot here after their big win versus the Cardinals. A very underwhelming team, I guess you could say, but this team somehow finds ways to get games won. They dominate the Cardinals on defense, only allowing 3 field goals. Kenneth Walker scores the only touchdown of the day, and Geno Smith played very well. Just nothing, obviously for my fantasy team, but he got the win for the team. And that's all they can ask for. 19, we have the Saints after a tough luck loss. First, the Bengals at home. They get Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. But the thing for me is this wide receiver room health. I mean, you have Olave more than likely going to play this week. Michael Thomas was hurt. Jarvis is hurt. And, you need all those guys to be successful here. But it looks like Winston will be returning next week, and that's a bright sign for them. 28, we have the Indianapolis Colts. They're staying put here versus those Jaguars. And they go into Tennessee this week in a big AFC South game. If they can get that win, this team will be vaulting up in the rankings for sure next week. But Jonathan Taylor, he's expected back, and Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce are starting to look like a very good duo. But if Matt Ryan can have this consistent play, the Colts could be a very scary team. 17, we got my Packers, and it's time for me to, put them all the way down here. Panic, possibly, but they are in the market for a wide receiver. And if they can go out and get one, then I think this team will be benefited a lot. But if they don't, then this team is just on a crash course for maybe a wild card at best. And that's being very hopeful. But Aaron Rodgers, he's doing the best he can. He's, not doing his MVP seasons here. It just seems like A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones just aren't getting enough touches. And I know they're going to try to run the ball. Maybe we're lining up Jones and Dillon out wide. I mean, this team, they just need to get the ball to their 2 best guys. 16, we have the Dolphins dropping 5 spots after a tough loss for the Vikings. The only positive, though, Tua is expected to start this week versus the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Tyreek Hill obviously went off yet again. Just another week of him dominating. Teddy Bridgewater had to step in because Skylar Thompson went down. Bridgewater did well besides the 2 INTs. And Jalen Waddle had that fumble in the fourth quarter where they were driving and possibly, going to tie the game, and just couldn't get it done. 15, we have the Patriots moving up a ton here with their big win in Cleveland. I think the biggest thing here going forward is who is going to be the quarterback one. Is it going to be Zappe, or is it going to be Mac Jones? I mean, who knows? Zappe's been playing well. When we look at the stats there, 309, 2 tutties. Stevenson, almost 100 total yards and 2 tutties. And this team, is pretty solid. They have an easy game next week against the Bears and could be looking at 4-3. 14, we have the Ravens blowing yet another lead. They were up 20-10 with 6:30 left in the fourth and just decided to blow it yet again. Lamar threw a very dumb interception and gave the Giants a win. And I don't know. It just seems like they just can't finish. And if they could finish these games, I think would be 6-0 right now if they would hold the lead. So this Ravens team, is playing a lot better than that 3-3 record. They just can't finish a game. 13, we have the Rams moving up. They get a bye this week, but they beat the Panthers pretty good, but nothing, write home about. Just a poor showing, in my opinion. Stafford didn't do anything spectacular. Neither did Cooper Kupp. And the big storyline, if you want to talk about something, they're getting outscored this year 47-10 in the fourth quarter. So if it's a close game, you might want to take the other team. 12, we have the Niners dropping out of the top 10. Weird loss at the Falcons. They had 3 turnovers. The defense just disappeared against Marcus Mariota. It looked like they didn't know what to do. But Brandon Ayuk had the only good day on the team. 8 receptions, 83 yards, and 2 touchdowns as they look to right the ship next week at home. First, the good Chiefs. 11, we have the Bucs dropping a ton here, going from 4-11, and that loss of the Steelers says more about the Bucs than it does the Steelers. 3-3 in Pittsburgh. I know it's a tough place to play, but they've lost 3 of their last 4. The wide receiver room, who knows? Godwin and Evans are finally healthy, and it seems like they're still not. It's just not enough. And if Julio gets back, can maybe he be that spark that they need? But they need to go into Carolina and put on a beatdown. Tom Brady has never lost to the Panthers and as a Buck, and hopefully, that'll continue here. If not, then this Bucks team has bigger problems. Starting in the top 10, we got the Titans moving up 4 spots, mostly just because teams just imploded last week. But this Titans team, if they get a win versus the Colts, 4-2, leading the AFC South, and the Titans, will just vault up again. But is Tannehill going to be that guy that they can count on in these situations? At 9, we got the Bengals with their win in New Orleans. And this game was all about Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. I mean, just look at those stat lines down there. Half of the passing yards almost were to Jamar Chase. The defense did their part in the second half, limiting the Saints to 2 field goals, while the Bengals just kept scoring and putting it on them late. And that's the storyline here. Can the Bengals get another win at home against a lowly Falcons team? And if they do, then you got to put them in the conversation for the AFC North, as that whole division is just up in flames right now. Who knows who's going to win that division after week 6? At 8, we got the Chargers making the jump back into the top 10 with their OT win against the Broncos last night. Ugly performance, but Dustin Hopkins came through with his injured hamstring and did, what they had him do, just come in, do his job, win the game. But the big storyline is Keenan Allen still not being able to play. If he's back next week, I think that's a huge, huge thing to talk about, because this team just looks like they can't get anything going on offense without him. Mike Williams had a really good game last week and then put up a dud this week against the Broncos. So it's very inconsistent on the offensive side. But if you get Allen, then you get Williams involved, and Gerald Everett will get more involved. Eckler will be more involved. So you just need your best receiver back. 7, we have the New York Jets. Yes, you are reading that right. The New York Football Jets are 4-2, went into Lambeau, get a win, and Sauce Gardner is looking like potential defensive player of the year, maybe rookie of the year. I mean, he is just balling out right now. He's playing like a 4th-year vet, best corner in the league. And you just got to admire the Jets the last 2 years with their drafts. They know what they're doing here. They're going in the right direction. And if they can go into Denver this week, I mean, this team is, just getting even more scarier than a lot of people thought. I had them going into the playoffs as a wild card this year, but it might be more than that this year. 6, we have the Cowboys dropping 1 spot just because they played in Philly, lost. Cooper Rush struggled. And now, it's Dak's turn. Will Dak come back and light up the Lions in his first game back? Who knows? I think they're going to ease him into it. It could be another running game. The Lions defense is atrocious this year, and we're going to have to go from there. At 5, we got the New York Giants with a big win over the Ravens, 24-20. They got the Jaguars this week, so it should be a fairly easier game, but knowing these Giants, you never know. But the big story from that Ravens game is they came back from down 10 in the 4th quarter to steal one from the Ravens. They only had a little over 238 yards. Saquon did his part. Daniel Jones, they just do enough to win, and it may not be, sexy on the stat line, but they do their part in getting the job done. At 4, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, moving them down 1 here after their loss to the Bills. Mostly, this was Mahomes. He threw an interception in the end zone and then threw a very questionable pass trying to do too much with a minute left in the game, and that's why they lost this game. The defense probably played the best game of the year and limited the Chiefs very well to only 24 points, and it still wasn't enough. It seems like this Chiefs team, they own them in the playoffs, so it could be a whole different story around that time. But you just got to look at, just the running game just didn't seem like it was there. Mahomes obviously still played well besides those 2 interceptions. And Juju finally scored his first touchdown with the Chiefs. At 3, we have the Vikings moving up after a big win in Miami. This game, the Vikings were favored, but I just wasn't too sure on them. Could the Dolphins prevent a tough test for them? They did, but the Vikings squeaked one out late. Dalvin Cook had a good performance with his late touchdown, and the offense only totaled 230 yards, so that's a big question mark right there. But the defense, they stood up when it mattered most. All the yards, it doesn't matter. If you can limit them and not score points, then congrats to you, because that's, how you win games. But Kirk Cousins, most of his passing yards went to Justin Jefferson, 20 for 30. And Jefferson had 6 of those receptions for 107 yards. So it really showed you that they were bottled up against the Vikings. At 2, we have the Buffalo Bills staying put with their win in Kansas City. It was tough for me not to put them number 1, but I have to put the Eagles at number 1 right now. These Chiefs team, they have them, or the Bills have the Chiefs number in the regular season, but can it translate to the playoffs this year? If it comes down to it, if they have to go into Buffalo, the Chiefs do, and play there, is it going to be a different storyline where Buffalo wins at home? We'll just have to wait and see. But Stephon Diggs had a great game, yet another great game. Josh Allen played his mind out yet again. And to me, if you go out and sign Von Miller, these are the games you have him for. And that's why he's a closer here. It's kind of like the baseball reference to a closer. If you have a good pass rusher, he can just get to your quarterback quick, get the ball out quick. He's essentially the closer because he's a game wrecker. He can do whatever. Obviously, he had the sack on Mahomes before that last drive and, pressured him, broke the, double team and pressured Mahomes into throwing that interception. And at 1, we have the Philadelphia Eagles for the 3rd time this year. They beat the Cowboys at home on Sunday Night Football. They took advantage of Cooper Rush's mistakes, and that's why they only had under 300 yards. But those mistakes led to points, and they were up 20-3 at half, and really just never looked back. They did kind of look like they were going to give in a little bit. The Eagles went for 2, and didn't get it. So it should have been 28-17 in that touchdown in the second half. But Jalen Hurts played well, nothing too spectacular, but good enough because that's all the Eagles are asking for from him. That's going to be it for the video today. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Get us 200 subscribers. But until the next week's video, the Bench Buddies are out.